Step into the realm of limitless imagination with Beyond the Art, where Indigenous creativity knows no bounds. Join us on a captivating journey through Indigenous art and innovation.
Together, let's delve into the depths of imagination, pushing boundaries with guests from diverse sectors of the Native American art world, each sharing their unique creative vision and inspiring journeys.
Join us for exclusive interviews, thought-provoking discussions, and uplifting stories.
Welcome to Beyond the Art, the podcast where we explore the intersection of creativity, culture, and community, with a special focus on Native American art. I'm your host, Joe Williams, and today we're thrilled to have a very special guest joining us. Laura J. Allen, Curator of Native American Art at the Montclair Art Museum in New Jersey. Laura has been leading some truly groundbreaking projects at MAM, including a reinstallation of the museum's Native American art collection in the newly renovated gallery space, which opened on September 13th, 2024. She's also been at the helm of several notable exhibits like Meryl McMaster, Chronologies as the curator, and Color Riot, How Color Changed Navajo Textiles, as host curator of the traveling exhibition, and was on the curatorial team of the reinstallation of the Northwest Coast Hall of the American Museum of Natural History. Today, we'll be diving into her work, her approach to curating, and what makes the recent reinstallation so special. Laura, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Laura, you've had quite a journey in the world of museum curation. Could you start by telling us about how your path has led you to Montclair Art Museum and what inspired you to focus on Native American art?
Of course. I've been involved in the museum world for quite some time. I started in 2004 at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. But I have an interdisciplinary career, I would say, that includes both the natural sciences. That's kind of was my connection to AM&H at the beginning, as well as design. So that was another reason I was excited to be a part of this podcast. I worked at the Natural History Museum in the city for many years in interpretation and exhibition development. And then finally, the museum wanted to really focus on its cultural halls again. And I was very lucky to have a part in that process. Started working with community members on the Northwest Coast. I became very invested in the work and unpacking the history of museums and Native American art, material culture, very complicated history. And then I was able to go to graduate school at Bard Graduate Center on the Upper West Side for material culture, decorative arts, and design history. And with that, I became focused on a career in curation. And I was absolutely delighted to find a museum like Montclair Art Museum with a very strong historical and contemporary Native art collection. That's not that common. And it was so close to home. So I'm delighted to be there.
The reinstallation of MAM's Native American collection was a huge moment for the museum. Can you tell us a little bit about the vision behind this reimagined gallery space and what visitors can now expect?
Montclair Art Museum has been showing its Native art collection since the founding of the institution in 1914. Which is pretty special. We had an exhibition focused on basketry right at the very, very beginning opening of the museum. So we've been dedicated to this collection for a long time. This reinstallation is a completely different approach. It's a beautifully refreshed exhibition in a space that showed this same collection from 1931 to 1955. A tall, airy gallery with some natural windows that we've kept, and I'll tell you a little bit more about those later. The point was to really reimagine both the process and the outcomes of how we wanted to present this collection. We did this very collaboratively from the start. The museum brought together a Native American Art Advisory Council of leading curator scholars such as Heather Ahtone and Kathleen Ash Milby, and several other folks, Kay Walking Stick, people who've been involved with our museum before, as well as people who came to it new and offered kind of a forum for us to think through this together. So it was really starting from scratch in many ways in thinking how we wanted to present this outstanding collection. And we did a lot of adding to the collection as a part of this. So we can talk a little bit more about that too.
Oh, of course. And you've curated several major exhibitions at the MAM, including McMaster. Sorry, I'm just tripping over myself today. Meryl McMaster, Chronologies. What was the curatorial process like for that show, and how does it reflect your broader vision for the museum's Native American art program?
That's a great question. Different exhibitions require different approaches to curation. And for Meryl McMaster, this was a smaller scale show, I would say, of incredible new work. Another show that I worked on since I've been at MAM was called From My Home to Yours, Carolyn Monet and Laura Ortman. That exhibition was a sound and video exhibition in a special space that you could really sort of a lower ceilinged. I'd like to start over. Okay. So that's a great question. Different exhibitions require different approaches to curation. And for Meryl McMaster's show and another exhibition called From My Home to Yours, Carolyn Monet and Laura Ortman, that was an exhibition curated by Stephanie Hessler in Canada that I brought in. Meryl McMaster, we started working with the artist ourselves. These shows really reflect an artist-focused approach where the curator and the artist are working closely to imagine how the presentation can look. And I was able to highlight particular themes with those shows that I thought were important for our visitorship. So for Meryl's show, it was called Chronologies. So we were looking at how she disrupts time with that exhibition. For a full-scale reinstallation of a collection that includes both historical and contemporary artwork requires a much more inclusive approach, or broader, I would say. Artist-centered components were definitely part of this. We worked very closely with particular artists to create commissions, especially for this exhibition. But the larger process, I would say, for this reinstallation was collaborative with not only our advisory council, but also with 8 main exhibition collaborators, we called them, who have particular expertise in their region of specialty, geographic and culturally based expertise. For example, we worked with Brian Vio and Will riding in to reconceive how we presented Pueblo pottery in the new exhibition. And we worked with Hyups, who is a Nuchalnath artist and cultural leader and historian, who I also worked with on the Northwest Coast Hall, to rethink the Northwest Coast Hall components. So, and so on. We had worked with several other people. So those cultural authorities came to the museum. They looked at our collections, in many cases chose particular objects, and we thought through the possibilities together. So that was an additional collaborative component. And then I invited, in certain cases, external authors, Native authors, to write labels for particular pieces. We conducted a number of interviews and had a number of other touch points. So the bottom line is that this exhibition was really a together project from start to finish at multiple points, where it goes far beyond an artist-led approach.
Wow. The curator part of me is rolling through this. What does a timeline like that look like for an exhibition like this?
It's always takes more time than you expect, especially when you're involving dozens and dozens of Native partners in the process, because we want to work carefully to get things right. And we also want to respect people's time. People have a lot of responsibilities within community, and that approach just takes the time that it needs to take. So that's a long way of saying initially we had thought we would work on this project for 2 years, but we worked on it for 3.
Oh, wow. I think that's so important for the artists, listeners that are listening, that the shows and exhibitions take a long while to come together. It's a lot of organizational movement to make this happen. So the new reinstallation, Interwoven Power, Native Knowledge and Native Arts, sounds incredible. Can you walk us through the themes of this installation and how Indigenous knowledge is being woven into the conversations about today's pressing social issues?
Absolutely. So this reinstallation is titled Interwoven Power. We were really thinking about weaving as a metaphor. The exhibition doesn't exclusively focus on weaving, but there's a lot. Really, the notion speaks to how Native knowledge is beheld by these objects, how Native knowledge is embedded in them, and how that power is woven throughout the room and woven through the fabric of society. We really wanted to think about how Indigenous knowledge is vital in addressing the issues we all face as a society, whether that be relationships with the earth, ideas about gender, thinking through racism, and much more. We wanted to underscore how we cannot move forward with these challenges and these debates and these opportunities if Indigenous knowledge keepers are not a part of the conversation. And so we wanted to make the exhibition very relevant to contemporary life. Showing historical works is one way to do that, and showing contemporary works is another way to do that. And we have connected the two in this exhibition. I think, when I think of the history of colonization, which we tackle quite a bit in this gallery, it's ongoing, as we all know, and Euro-American knowledge is a dominating force on this continent, and we really wanted to elevate and prioritize Indigenous knowledge to kind of counter that force. And so this exhibition really aims to be an indigenizing effort, I would say, especially because of how collaborative it was.
One of the exciting aspects of this reinstallation is how it blends historical works with newly commissioned works by artists Holly Wilson and Nicholas Galanin. How do you approach bringing these different eras of Native arts into dialogue with each other?
Yes, there is inherent continuity between the practices of the past and the practices of the present. Sometimes you can see this visually within works that we've juxtaposed from perhaps the same cultural community, older work next to a newer work. With the case of Nicholas's work, this was a really special component, a special part of the project, where we have a strong collection of historical work from the Northwest Coast, but as with many institutions, there's often a minimal amount of information that accompanies these historical works. And Nicholas came to the museum, and we also had Hyups on video during his visit, and so we could have a conversation. And we looked at a number of pieces in the collection to think through kind of critically what the opportunities and issues were. And we we were thinking through a particular totem pole in our collection from the early 20th century that had been misattributed over the years. There was no information about who might have made it. And with our collaborative process, we determined that, and through the consultation of other experts, such as Chris Smith, we determined that this pole was not the Haida or Tlingit pole that had been indicated on the card. It was from the southern part of the Northwest Coast, so from the Victoria area, made by a New Chalneth artist for the market, and not a good old pole, as the original collector had noted, that had been in front of somebody's home. This was directly made for the market, which shows the real strategy and agency of artists working at that time, as well as the history of colonial suppression that kept these artists anonymous and, creating the conditions. And the museum is a part of that history, creating these conditions where we don't know, and we have to recover that information. So Nicholas was thinking through this issue, and he created a new work that engaged with these very histories and ideas. It shows Nicholas. It's a photograph, a large scale photograph that's next to the pole. It shows Nicholas bisected, his own self-portrait, bisected with a fake pole, a replica pole that was made in Indonesia, which not by Northwest Coast Native artists. This undercuts the market for their work. He wanted to really think through people like his great-grandfather, George Benson, who was a pole carver in the early to mid 20th century. And again, highlighting the anonymity. The name of Nicholas's piece is called Portrait of the Artist Obscured. And with that title, he's really bringing out people like his great-grandfather, honoring their contributions for upholding Tlingit knowledge and the knowledge of carving through an incredibly suppressive period, and also highlighting how that knowledge has been protected by his ancestors. And in doing this, he critically reflects on our collection, and we do too. We directly narrate this process and what we were attempting to do on the labels for these two works that are by the entrance of one of the doors of the gallery.
The reinstallation also includes site-specific interventions to the museum's neoclassical art and architecture. That's a really interesting concept. How do these interventions contribute to the narrative of the exhibit?
Yes. So the chief approach that we took here was working directly with artist Holly Wilson, who I think has been a guest on Beyond the Art. Yes. She's a wonderful person and an incredibly talented artist. And she and I and the rest of the team at MAM have been working together for several years on a phased special installation for this gallery. We unveiled the first phase at the opening in September. We really wanted to think through the foundational history of this institution, the land we're on, the land we occupy. Holly Wilson is a member of Delaware Nation, so she is Lenape, and we are on Lenape land in Montclair. Montclair is Lenape land, and she came and we looked at the windows. I think I had mentioned those earlier. We retained a beautiful neoclassical window in the gallery that had been there since it opened in 1931. And then in an adjacent gallery called the Rotunda, There are several windows in there that had been covered up by shades, and we opened them up, have a link to the outside, to this land that's so important to Holly and her ancestors, and to Lenape people today. And she created, she's in the process of creating a glass and metal sculpture that will cover these windows, allowing the light to come through and allowing you to think about her family history, the living beings that are on the lands that you see outside the window, and kind of that history of dispossession and reconnection with this place. And so her windows actually form a narrative core, a sort of central thread, so to speak, in the exhibition. One of her windows, it will be visible at each entrance, and you can kind of follow that story. One window focuses on Lenapehoking, the other one focuses on Oklahoma, where she lives and works. Wow. Another way that she is engaging with the historical art is through a intervention that she did, a brilliant idea that she had to intervene with a neoclassical white marble sculpture in the center of the rotunda. It depicts a Greek woman making a crown of laurel leaves for a Olympic winner, and she encircled this sculpture, which was going to stay put in the gallery, with a fringe that you would see on a dance shawl or a powwow regalia. So you can see this history. You can see that Euro-American history, but it's really through an Indigenous lens, through a Lenape lens, and really most importantly through Holly's lens. That is the sort of priority vision. And I think that's a metaphor for what I described earlier in terms of ensuring that we have a window on the Euro-American foundations of the institution, but that the Indigenous perspective is prioritized and elevated.
You've worked with Native artists, scholars, and community leaders in shaping this exhibit. Can you share how collaboration has played a role in your curatorial practice and why it's so important, particularly in this project?
So collaborative and critical museology is central to my practice. This is something I leaned into at the American Museum of Natural History with the Northwest Coast Hall, and it's something I prioritize at Montclair Art Museum. I think, as I had described a bit earlier, there was, it was of vital importance that this project be a collaborative and together project in order to present the work sensitively, to convey Native perspectives directly from the people that we are partnering with, and to present a better exhibition. And I think that hope we've succeeded on all of those fronts.
Can you tell me about your work with the external designers for the exhibition? Sine Austro for exhibition design, and Sebastian for the graphic design and custom font for the exhibition.
Of course. This was a really exciting component of the project. Design is something I care about quite a lot. I don't think I mentioned earlier in the program that I also have a background in the design field. I worked in the fashion industry in New York City for a few years, and that's part of why I focus on dress and design in my research for Native American art. And I really wanted to think very carefully about the design of this exhibition because it presented a number of opportunities and challenges. We have a small team at MAM, and I knew that we needed to work with a few more people in order to get it conceived and designed and completed on time. So we worked with Sine Austro, who is somebody I had actually worked with at AMNH in the past, and Sebastian Aubin, who is the principal designer of the Indigenous led, he is a Pasquia Cree Nation, a design team Otami, which is based out of Montreal. Just two wonderful people, creative minds. And we came together. We met a number of times to think through what we could do in this gallery. And we landed collectively on the idea of using weaving as a design metaphor, as a visual metaphor, as I had mentioned earlier. So Sine cleverly created the platforms that we have the cases on in different areas of the room to actually look like weaving materials, as if they're folded and twined. You can see the sort of sinuous sort of folds of those materials in the physical structures. And then Sebastian created a custom font for this gallery that echoes that. It also has those beautiful bends and folds, and I love it so much. It's such a dynamic typeface, and it really contemporizes the exhibition and communicates that idea of interwoven power, no matter from what angle you look at in the place.
Before coming to MAM, you've had experiences at institutions like the American Museum of Natural History and the University of Alaska Museum of the North. How have those experiences shaped your approach to curating Native American art at Montclair?
Right. So I've mentioned AMNH a few times, and I think there is where I really learned how to conduct a collaborative exhibition and how to work with community members in a focused cultural context. I learned so much from our partners. It really was the foundational education that I had in museum, collaborative museology and museum curation. And at the University of Alaska Museum of the North, that was a concurrent project to what I was doing with AMNH. I was a freelancer helping to kind of reconceptualize a reorganization of the Gallery of Alaska there. And that was really an exercise in interdisciplinarity, which I really brought back. I continue to bring out through my work. It's inherent in what I'm interested in. That exhibition focused on the natural sciences, as well as culture. That exhibition focused on natural sciences and culture and a bit of art all together. And that really is the ethos of Native American studies and Native American art, is that it crosses these disciplines, it breaks these boundaries down. And so that those ideas, collaboration and interdisciplinarity, are what I've brought to Montclair Art Museum. Even though it's an art institution, we engage with environmental issues. We engage with political issues. We engage with design. And so all of these threads of my past work come through in an exhibition like this one.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah, because all of these themes are threaded so tightly together within our culture. You really don't have one without the other. So that's a great perspective. Cray had noticed one of the historical pieces included a bandolier bag from 1855, and it's such a powerful object. Can you tell us more about its significance and how it fits into the larger narrative of this reinstallation?
Of course. This is such a special piece. The backstory is that it's a part of a set of men's Seminole or Muskogee regalia from the mid-1800s. it's a full outfit that we have, which is very uncommon. There just are not very many of these ensembles that survive in museum collections. So it consists of a coat, leggings, garters, a bag, a sash, and a few other small items that all are matching. And we only could show a few components of this set in this exhibition because of space considerations. What they do in the exhibition is they show that, pride and detail in men's ceremonial regalia. So that's in the gender section. But what's particularly special about this bag is that it's most Seminole and Muskogee historical bags have these abstracted beadwork designs. So it's a beaded bag. Nothing seems too representational on the bag. This bag has a depiction of a human being, which is highly unusual. So it makes it even extra special and rare. And so there had been speculation for many years before me, prior curators who had wondered what this figure was representing. And so we first talked to a friend of mine who is working with Seminole Regalia, Amanda Thompson. We looked over this bag and thought it through. And then I went to Pedro and Brian Zepeda, who are two brothers, Seminole brothers who live in Florida. They are regalia makers, and they are such knowledgeable people. And we did a remote consulting session together. They were so excited to see this set. They had heard about it. They had pictures, but not as many pictures as we shared. That was of benefit to them because they are making regalia all the time. They were delighted to see these images and talk with us. And I feel so grateful for their input. And they made a suggestion of what they thought this being was. They thought that it was a person who was using potentially turtle shell rattles and a turtle shell mask. And we had never had that potential interpretation associated with the piece before. So I think the bottom line is that this bag really not only communicates some of the ideas of the show, but it also communicates the process.
Wow. Your academic background in decorative arts, design history, and material culture with a focus on textiles and fashion. How has this shaped your curatorial work, particularly with exhibitions that involve Indigenous material culture?
Yeah, I think I've spoken a little bit into how weaving and other fiber arts were so kind of metaphorically important in this exhibition. But I would say that, these types of arts, depending on which culture you're talking about and which point in history, have tended to be in the background at times, kind of less seen as fine art and seen as craft. Those are all, I'm using danger quotes there because it's, we can unpack those those terminologies and those formations of knowledge. But I think that I love these works. They're incredibly complex. They're so time consuming. And the example, incredible examples of the care and knowledge and artistry of Native people. And so I'm really, they don't come into play with every exhibition, but I'm making a point of engaging with dress textiles and fashion for many of the exhibitions that I'm curating, and especially one that's upcoming that will focus on Northwest Coast dress textiles and fashion. So I will have to stay tuned for that in 2026.
Oh, that's exciting. With that said, there's a collection of over 4,000 Native American works at MAM. How do you make the selection for each exhibit? Are there any hidden gems or personal favorites that especially excite you that you want to share in the reinstallation?
Yeah, so in many cases, as I mentioned, we worked with our collaborators to select especially historical pieces. I wanted to ensure we were not putting out works that were excuse me.
Bless you.
So, yeah, as I mentioned, it was really important to work with our collaborators, who in some cases made direct selections or suggestions of works to show from our collection. We really wanted to ensure that we weren't presenting works that were sensitive or inappropriate to show, especially given the legal obligations of NAGPRA, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, whose regulations were revised in January. So that was a very important process. But I think, I think the gallery has many hidden gems. There are two pieces, though, that are very dear to me that I purchased, or the museum purchased on my recommendation for this exhibition, that are small and small and powerful. One of them is a woven necklace by Megan O'Brien, who is a Kwakwaka'wakw and Haida artist that I've been working with for many years. It's an incredible woven necklace that shows Northwest Coast, or Haida specifically, formline art in the design that she has been inspired by from historical argillite pieces. So those are black slate carvings from Haida Gwaii. And it is just such a boundary pushing piece. It is a woven necklace that's made from a single warp in a kind of infinite loop. And then she has so finely woven and deconstructed Northwest Coast form line with this piece. So that was a purchase I was so excited to make and have on view. Another piece that I'm really excited about is by the artist Brittany Britton. She is Hoopa, and she is a curator as well in Northern California. And I went out to Northern California to work with communities there and start to build relationships there. We have a very strong California collection at MAM, historically speaking, and we needed more contemporary art from that community. And I was asking about her art, and she showed me this photograph, a kind of a self-portrait she made of herself in kind of like a stockinette kind of mask, almost like a lingerie-like mask that covered her face and had a gold leaf representing the 111s, which are the tattoos that Native women get there on their chin. And I was absolutely taken by this piece. She's a queer artist, and she's also has been a drag king at times in her life, and she was really thinking through sort of the responsibilities that she had as a woman in her community, and as the sort of what kind of agency she has as a queer artist to kind of present that part of her identity. And she's thinking about kind of putting on and taking off these roles and identities through this mask. And I'm so excited about this piece. So these are things that are in the gallery, and they're, something you can look for.
The themes of sovereignty, environmental stewardship, and justice seem to be central to the exhibition. How do you see contemporary Native American art contributing to these cultural conversations?
Well, as we know, Native artists are at the forefront of critiquing and unpacking the issues that we face as society. contemporary Native work is inherently political, even if it may not appear overtly political, and many times it is, to kind of offer a lens on these issues. And we highlight visual sovereignty as a theoretical concept in the gallery. This is a concept put forth by Jolene Ricard, artist and art historian. And that is, one way we can think about how contemporary Native artists put forth ideas of self-determination and cultural and political critique. But I also want to mention that historical works do this as well. And that is one way we have connected these ideas across time in the gallery, is to juxtapose historical and contemporary pieces to say that Native artists in the late 19th century were also critiquing and putting forth their cultural perspectives and views, asserting them through this art, whether it was made for sale or whether it was made for community. This is a long-standing practice.
Looking at the future, how do you feel? Excuse me. Looking to the future, how do you envision the Native American art program at Montclair evolving? Any upcoming projects or exhibitions you can give us a sneak peek of?
So, to be honest, I'm turning a bit internally in the next year, really focusing more on our collection and our responsibilities to Native communities, tribal communities within the context of NAGPRA and other approaches to repatriation. Exhibition is so important. It is a way to enact those collaborative relationships and present a fresh perspective on art, but it is only one component of the work of a historical institution like a settler institution like MAM. So it's, vitally important for us to collaborate and to dig in to our collection even more deeply for these ends, for the purpose of study and return. And I do have a few exhibitions, though, in the works. We're hoping to have I'm not going to announce it yet, but a single artist exhibition in a special staircase space that faces the city, New York City, at the north of our institution. So working with a Haudenosaunee artist there. And as I mentioned, I have a big project on Northwest Coast dress, thinking through the kind of relationality that's embedded in that dress over time. So that's coming in 2026, and I'm hoping that will travel.
Oh, that's exciting. That's really exciting. I'll be looking out for that. So lastly, Laura, what do you hope visitors will walk away from after experiencing the reinstallation? What kind of impact are you hoping to make, not just at the museum, but in the broader community as well?
For our Native visitors, I'm really hoping that when they come in, that they feel reflected, that their perspectives seem present in the gallery, that they feel welcome, and that they see us as an ally for their priorities. And I also am hoping that some of the works that we have a number of Lenape works, both historical and contemporary, beyond Holly's installation in the exhibition. And I'm really hoping that those works are inspiring to our local community. Regional art was a huge focus of this reinstallation, and I really hope this presentation kind of continues to inspire and re-engage local Native artists and community members to create more, to push their boundaries, to think of us as a venue. So that's our Native audience. For our non-Native audience, I really hope that they come into this gallery and see that this is Native art. This might not have conformed to their conceptions of what they thought they were going to see when they walk in. We have several large and exciting pieces in this gallery, including Holly's, including Eric Paul Rige, who is a Navajo mixed media artist and performance artist, and Nicholas's work. I'm really hoping this changes perceptions. If your perception was that Native art is historical or in small cases, this really busts through that. I really also hope it shifts perspectives on these culturally embedded concepts that people take for granted, that they think the way they learned is the way it is. So thinking about family, thinking about gender, thinking about art itself and relationships to the earth, these are all the key themes of the gallery. And I hope for non-Native visitors, they come in and say, I didn't see it that way, and now I understand. That's ultimately the goal, is to change minds and to be a part of the change both in our field and these cultural narratives more broadly.
That's fantastic. Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. The work that you're doing at Montclair Art Museum is so impactful, and I know our listeners will be just as excited as I will be when we visit the reinstallation, the reinstall of the Native American gallery. Before we wrap up here, where can our listeners find more information about the current exhibition and any other programs at MAM?
Just go to the website at MAM, MontclairArtMuseum.org, or our social media platforms. We're on Instagram and Facebook. And yes, we welcome you anytime, Joe, and we welcome any listener who'd love to come see what this exhibition is all about. It's a long-term exhibition. We'll be rotating new works over time. So come visit. We're very close to Manhattan, easy to get to. So we'll hope to see you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Laura, for sharing your insights and the important work that you're doing, highlighting Native American arts and culture. I'm looking forward to seeing the impact of your exhibitions for years to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Indigenous art and creativity. Stay inspired and keep exploring with us on Beyond the Art.
Remember to subscribe and follow us for more exclusive interviews, insightful discussions, and stories that ignite your artistic imagination.
Until next time, continue to unlock your limitless potential with Beyond the Art. Thank you for listening.